Welcome back to Movies Recap. I am going to explain movie called Timber Falls. Leningrad, US, our first winter after the end of the Great Patriotic War. Women's Transit Camp 3459. Everyday women-only camps host poor and unlucky women and children who escaped the horrors of war, caring for the sick and wounded. They provide them with first aid, after which they are sent to hospitals, shelters, and other places for their further stay and recovery. After fighting Dr. Natalia is forced to work here and look after her insane husband Andre, who has changed a lot after being badly wounded. Man cannot live without medicine, so she sees him daily and gives him the pills. Andre does not want to be treated and only imitates taking medicine, after which he puts pills in a separate box. Soon 2 trucks arrive at the camp and bring Germans who were taken prisoner as a result of the war. Women are meant to take care of 53 people, but 2 of them died on the way here, which already makes their job easier. Captain Olga Alexandrovna is outraged by this and she has offered to make a formal complaint. But this will not change anything since an order has been received from above from Colonel Pavlov. Many captives are scared, but others think that they are women and should not be feared. Klaus and another German try to take off the clothes of the dead to keep warm, but one of them is quickly killed. Vera breaks out at them and calls them Nazis who killed their family. Woman beats the prisoners with a stick and the cops hardly manage to calm her down. Germans are driven into an old and rundown hangar where they will live until a further choice is made regarding their fate. Looking out the window, men see how cruel Soviet women are because they do not know pity and hang up the murdered, showing their disrespect for him. Natalia asks to be more forgiving, but her idea is not accepted, recalling how they were hungry in Leningrad during the blockade. In the evening, women bring food to the prisoners. Vera still takes Germans with disrespect and overturns the container of food. Men are hungry and pounce on the porridge, lying on the floor like a pig. This only supports Vera's opinion that they are pitiful and unimportant creatures that should be treated like animals. At the same time, not everyone is ready to sink to such a level. One of the self-respecting Germans is Max Borth, who refused to eat from the cold and damp ground at the morning roll call. Vera continues to mock the prisoners and hits them with a stick for every extra word. Max is not afraid of such an attitude and calls the name of the killed man, after which he asks to bury him decently. Before dinner, one of the Germans helps humble Zina in the kitchen, dropping a potato. Peter pulls it out from under the table and hits his head. Girl is amused by his awkwardness, but she is afraid to show concern for the man who killed Soviet women and children. The next day, Max, along with other prisoners, buries a guy who was shot dead upon arriving at the camp. Soon, Colonel Pavlov arrives at the scene and calls Captain Olga Alexandrovna to him. He is extremely offended by the soft conditions in relation to German prisoners because many are not who they say they are. According to the colonel, some of them changed their names on purpose to avoid a military trial and a fair sentence. After, Pavlov calls a doctor and asks to get close to one of the Germans in order to find out all their secrets. If woman declines, her sick husband will be written off and sent to rest somewhere in Siberia. Having ordered to watch the captives more closely, Pavlov is about to leave when he suddenly sees Zina laughing at Peter's jokes. He is extremely enraged by girl's careless behavior and commander chooses to punish her for it. Pavlov forces Zina to undress, despite the fact that it is freezing cold outside. Germans look at the naked girl without removing their eyes, which shames her. A little later, inmates talk Soviet women and whether it is possible to start relationships with them. Klaus offers to stay away from any contact with these women because they are dangerous and bring death. Others do not share his opinion, thinking that wonderful lovers can turn out from Soviet ladies. In the evening, Olga Alexandrovna and Natalia talk the current situation and understand that someone is telling Pavlov, informing him about everything that happens in the camp. Some time later, the colonel again arrives at the camp with the prisoners. In the ranks of helpless Germans, he names 2 war criminals who committed atrocious crimes against the Soviet people during the blockade of Leningrad. No one can escape a sentence, so the men are taken away and the next morning they are openly executed. This instills even more fear in the prisoners because they understand that they will not return home safe. Klaus continues to demand that Max get close to the doctor, who shows interest and care for him. Max is also in love with Natalia, but he respects the woman too much and does not dare to have an open talk. Meanwhile, Zana finds a crying Peter with a picture in his hands. His whole family died and man does not understand the further meaning of life. Zina shares the sadness of a suffering German because her relatives were also killed in the war. In the evening, grief-stricken Zina and Peter meet to spend the night together. After intense kisses, the pair makes love, feeling happy for the first time in years. Sometime later, Natalia asks Max to replace and points out the rats running around her office. Man patches up a hole in the wall and talks to the doctor, trying to get to know the woman a little better. Soon the colonel again arrives at the camp and sees that prisoners have started to get fat. He is upset with this and orders to cut their ration by a third because the Soviet people are starving and Germans in their care should not look better than the locals. During his speech, Pavlov sees the odd behavior of Andrei, who is playing with the snow, and decides to talk to him. In the back room, a man tries to provoke an unhealthy soldier with a knife but quickly sees that it is better not to do this because he can kill him and does not even understand the horror of what happened. Elena, Natalia, and Olga Alexandrovna understand that the food provided is not enough for the survival of the captives. Germans are hungry and starting to get sick, so something needs to be done to be more human towards them. Doctor offers to send inmates to the depot to Yakov. Captain is embarrassed by the partnership of the Germans and the Jew, but she still chooses to take this step. A couple of weeks later, Yakov sees Natalia and thanks her for the idea because Germans are hardworking and do their job well trying to make their life better. Man offers to form a musical group since Germans love music and the Soviet people will not refuse good or nationalistic songs associated with a peaceful and happy life. Soon Yakov comes to the camp again to give musical instruments to those who can play. Klaus is dismissive of the Jew and thinks of killing him, but he is unable to do so. Other Germans do not worry about Jacob's country and take violins, button, accordion, and other instruments to start practicing and learning new songs. Zina is happily surprised because Peter is not only a pleasant man but also a skilled violinist who makes wonderful music. Meanwhile, Klaus suggests that Max turn in a couple of Germans so that no one will dig into their past and find out the real names of men. Max is offended by the meanness of his friend and former student because he did not expect that Klaus could sacrifice others to save his own skin. Natalia again calls Max to her as rats turned out to be stronger than the fence that he fixed. In a personal talk, the doctor reproaches prisoner for killing Soviet women and children. Max says that he did not do this, but he can understand Germans who went to such an act. There are no good people in war, and when a girl with a bomb runs at you, there is little choice. He does not justify it, but accepts the fact that sometimes a person simply does not have other choices. Before Max goes, Natalia asks him if Klaus is a war criminal, but Guy says nothing. Several months have passed. Zina is constantly sick and girl knows that Peter is to blame for this and not the bad food soup. She reports her pregnancy to the cook and doctor, which causes them a wave of dissatisfaction. At the same time, women are more worried about the loss of food because someone stole all potatoes. Natalia is scared that this information may reach Pavlov and gets a letter from Elena confirming her thoughts. As it turned out, not one of Olga Alexandrovna's co-workers writes denunciations, but Andrei does it. Natalia's husband is not fully aware of the truth of his actions and hardly recognizes his wife. Continuing to serve sincerely to only one person, Colonel Pavlov, doctor offers Zina to end the pregnancy, but girl refuses to do so. Once outside, they see that Pavlov has already arrived at the camp. Someone accused Peter of taking food and he is violently driven into a car. Zina cries and asks Natalia to save father of her future child. Doctor sees that Peter could not have committed the crime and goes to look for the stolen food. As it turned out, Vera was stealing, for which she was also jailed. But no one would let Peter go either. Pavlov is sure that he is a war criminal anyway and deserves to be punished even if they could not prove his crime. Before the colonel leaves, Yakov asks him to a show that will take place next weekend. Zina is very upset by what happened and takes her own life. In the morning, women find her, but it is too late. The next morning, women take the kidnapped Germans out into the yard and make them to take off all their clothes. Frightened men think that they will be killed now. Once in a closed room, the Germans understand that now they will be poisoned with gas so as not to eat and keep. For a few moments, they learn that they were wrong and deluded about the inhumanity of Soviet women, since they are in the shower and have to clean up in order to go to the concert. A few hours later, the prisoners arrive at the music hall where they prepare for their show. Many of them are still afraid to go on stage and think that this is just a mockery before they are killed. Soon, Soviet women and German prisoners appear in the hall. There is deathly quiet in the hall because women see the Germans in front of them who have been killing their dads, husbands, and children for several years. A couple of minutes later, Colonel Pavlov also comes to the concert, who quickly asks Natalia to dance. During this, Klaus meets a beautiful woman and leaves the main hall. A couple of minutes later, he returns, but already alone, having got rid of Pavlov's assistant, who was trying to reveal his real rank and name. At the end of the evening, Jacob announces the last dance, during which ladies can invite guys resigned to what is happening. Soviet women dance with German inmates and learn that they are very gallant and educated. After the show, women escort prisoners to the camp, but they are not allowed further. Beauties in love are in no hurry to disperse and stay standing at the gate. Olga Alexandrovna and Natalia decide to allow visits and let the inmates go home to the women on the condition that they return to the camp in the morning. Klaus, Max, and a few other guys stay at the camp as they haven't met anyone all evening. Klaus thinks departed prisoners lucky and jealous of them. At night, Max climbs into the window to Natalia and woman takes him in a warm hug. The couple have a great time together, after which Max returns to his place. Here he is struck by Klaus, who has ambushed an old classmate and his teacher, hitting him on the head. Klaus takes Max away in an unknown direction. Andre observed this but could not do anything as he was afraid. Soon Colonel Pavlov arrived at the camp, having learned about what happened to his helper during the show. Andre points out where Klaus has gone and the cars follow him. Meanwhile, Prisoner puts Max on the rails and leaves a goodbye letter, as if on his behalf. Natalia followed Prisoners and struck Klaus to try save Max. Waking up, Man protects the doctor and tries to choke his ward. What is happening is stopped by Colonel Pavlov, who appeared on the spot with his help. Klaus is still loyal to the German philosophy and knows that his war is over, unwilling to give up, and becomes a victim of a military trial. He makes a symbolic motion with his hand and throws himself under the train. Pavlov finds Max's goodbye letter and takes him away for questioning. Sometime later, Colonel comes at the camp to return the imprisoned German. At the same time, Pavlov takes Andre away as he is no longer fit for service and will go to a hospital for the mentally retarded and in need of wartime rehabilitation. Having gotten a paper flower, Natalia says goodbye to Andre. In the evening, she learns that Stalin has completed an agreement with the Allies according to which the Germans must be returned to their country. Realizing that most of the prisoners are not in the camp, women make door-to-door walks and tells the story. During the months of life in the camp and the town, Germans managed to get used to the local rules and habits. They found women, fell in love, and started families. Now they do not have the right to choose and must return to their country since this is Stalin's order. Women's dreams of a happy family life are broken because they will raise children alone. In the morning, a truck comes to pick up the Germans who survived prison. While everyone is getting into the car, Max says goodbye to Natalia, giving her a parting letter. Returning to her office, woman holds Andrea's flower and Max's letter in her hands, understanding that she was left totally alone, and here movie ends. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content. Turn on notifications to stay updated, and thanks for your support.